We live in a fast-paced and hectic world where it's easy to feel overwhelmed, stressed, and out of control. How do you manage all the competing pressures without losing sense of yourself? How do you stay focused enough to not only plot a path, but follow it? Welcome to Recovery Road, a show that offers inspiration, insight, and intelligence, as well as success stories from many walks of life that can show you how you can control your own destiny. Our knowledgeable and entertaining hosts and their guests give practical advice that you can use every day on your road to recovery. Now, here are your hosts, Leaha Mattinson and Greg Bird.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's show. I'm host Leaha Mattinson, joined by my wonderful co-host, Greg Bird. Greg, how are you today?
Amazing, actually. And it's so funny. I was hiring somebody for a new position on my team for business development manager. And I asked them how they were doing at the beginning of the interview. They actually said, amazing. Actually, I almost fell off my chair. I can't even make that up.
That is amazing, actually. It's amazing, actually. So the other thing that's amazing, and we were going to not record this episode because we had a guest coming on who had something come up, but I said, let's hit record anyway, because really important and might not be the case next week. So let's talk about what in the world is going on in the world of inflation. And I'm going to start this show by saying my son, who is 25 years old almost, is working at a job that pays about $24 an hour. And he's supporting two kids. And he came home yesterday and needed to fill up his truck with fuel to go to work. And he said, it's over $100 to fill my truck up. And it's like, this is a real problem right now for families, for individuals who are managing to solo, and for people who are of all ages and stages of life. And Greg, I'm going to let you dive right into it, because this is going on in the world. Now, for people who can't see this interview, that you're listening to it on a podcast, I want you to come to the masteryourlife.ca website so that you can see us, because we're going to be showing some memes that are very important and that you might not quite get the entire gist of if you can't see them. But we're going to give our best go to it. So Greg Bird, you and the daily memes, go.
Well, thank God my grandpa Bird was a great storyteller, so I could tell the story without anyone actually seeing this, but hearing it. So meme of the day, as I was researching for the show here this morning, Leaha, I came across one, and it's funny, not funny. So are you ready for this one? So it goes in line with your story about gasoline and your son fueling up his truck, and it's now well over $100, which it wasn't a year ago. And here's the meme. It's a Shell gasoline station. And you know how on the Shell stations or any gas station, it has the regular price of fuel. It has the plus, which is like the octane 89, the V-Power or whatever. That's like the higher boosted up 190, 192, whatever. And the diesel. So here's the meme. It has a Shell gas station, regular price of gas, an arm, the plus, a leg, the V-Power, your soul, as the price, and diesel, a kidney. So again, funny, not funny, because we've been saying this for months, how inflation is going to hit, and it's going to hit with a vengeance. And we today, when we're recording this, we're at an 18-year high for inflation rate. Like, we didn't even put this in our projections for inflation, for retirement plans, even a year ago, that it would rise this quickly so fast. So again, that's kind of going to set the tone for today. And I tell you, you know, it can lead people to make some really rash decisions, especially if you're in that kind of fight or flight mode. And we've talked about this on the show. When it comes to finances, you really got to be wary of what you do. And there's one thing I don't want people to jump into right away, is the get rich quick schemes that are out there. And we've hummed and hawed about what we're going to talk about. But Leaha, just seeing that meme, hearing that meme, how does that make you feel?
The only thing that would make it funnier is if it said brought to you by Pfizer.
Yeah, right. Anyways, yeah, who's making?
So how it makes me feel as somebody who we've seen this coming. We have seen this coming for not just months, but this has been talked about, and people who are sort of aware of anything that's going on in the world that isn't on mainstream media has certainly been aware that this is the direction that things have been going to take for quite some time. And there's been many stabs at taking things in this direction for quite some time. So here we are now. People can't afford to there was a study that I read yesterday that said 36% of Canadians are concerned about being able to feed their family, not put a roof over their head, but just put food on the table. 37%. How did we get into this mess? How did that happen? What can we do about it? Because I think that's the point of these shows, Recovery Road, is you can see the mess that's happened. You can see what part you played in it, but what in the world are you going to do when the rubber meets the road, or when you're trying to put fuel in your gas tank and you can't do it because all of a sudden you're the guy on the corner who's holding the sign saying, please give me money for gas, please give me money for food. So it's putting everybody on a very equal footing all of a sudden. So the upside is humanity starts to maybe be a little more human to one another. The downside is that we're going through a very tough, real 3D world tough time.
Think about that for a second. And it's you know what, this is going to affect many, many people. And what I'm really concerned about is the vulnerable that are out there. And the most vulnerable right now, think about it. Think about seniors right now that are on a strict budget, okay? That they've maybe retired. They're collecting their pension if they were lucky to have one, the small amount that the government gives as a pension fund or whatever. And they do not have it adjusted for the consumer price index. Like, it will not catch up quick enough. So when you have the price of fuel, so number one, no one's going anywhere that's on that tight budget because you just can't afford to fill up your vehicle. Number two, the price of food. Have you seen the price of food, Leah, lately?
I have.
Like, within even the last 2 weeks, how it's skyrocketed. Like,
talk about an example, something that you've seen, because I've seen lots of things and gone. I saw a steak that was out again. It's like this $100 mark. A steak that was $97 for a 2-pack of steak. That's in Alberta, Canada. Yeah. I've seen in Australia, somebody posted that they had paid for chicken, like a couple of chicken breasts, that it was over $60. An interview that I just did yesterday, somebody in New York City was talking about that they're right around where they live, that they're, again, it was like organic grass-fed chicken was $15.99 a pound. And then the outlying areas from them would be more expensive. They extrapolated, although they hadn't seen prices themselves. So a pound, like, that is ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. So what the World Economic Forum said about this, and I talked about it a year and a half ago, and you guys can check out your own intel, the worldeconomicforum.org. So they're a real entity. They said that their goal was to get people off of meat. That's part of their goal. So they're trying to make it so that people can't actually eat what we culturally eat. It's a real thing. It's not, Klaus Schwab is not a fictional character. So people need to know what's going on. And he's just kind of the tip of the spear. And I think it's like the face that people can see of, but there's many more people behind what's currently going on with this hyperinflation. And the Federal Reserve, like, this is a really good time for people to actually get educated, though. Hey, Greg?
Oh, I tell you, I just got to keep building upon that price of food thing. So again, with the researching the meme of the day, like, I had to scroll and scroll and scroll, and I found some really good ones. Someone had posted, like, from Costco, a rib roast. Again, the total price was $390 some, and I have to find that one and I'll send it to you. Like, I remember growing up on the farm, and we didn't even sell our cows for that much back then. Like, right. It just doesn't make any sense. And here we are facing this real problem today, and we've been talking about it. We've been talking about it time and time again. So again, think of the vulnerable that are out there. Think about, what can we do to adjust? But the big message I want to share today, because we've been talking about it, is just don't fall for those get-rich-quick schemes to keep ahead of this ever-growing problem. There's some that'll make it even worse, where you sell the farm, put it into whatever investment, and it all of a sudden flush, and then you're taken advantage of. So be careful of all the different things out there. And there's a word I want to share, is discernment. You have to really, really listen to that feeling in your gut that instinct. Man, if it's screaming to you, don't do it. Listen to what listen to what your body, your mind, your heart, your soul are telling you. Don't sell it to the Shell gas station, I tell you.
Right. Yes. Do your research. The thing also that's difficult about doing research right now is that a lot of it, depending on if your level of research is just simply to go and Google something, that's not really doing research. So there's a whole education that needs to happen. But short term, what is a good idea for people who are thinking about just how do I make it through this next? Let's extend this and say it's going to be 3 months, 6 months, a year. What are some good strategies for people to have? This is very different than what we normally talk about, but this is very present. So what are good 3 month, 6 month, 1 year strategies for you and those who are vulnerable? If you're one of the ones who's not vulnerable, how do you help those who are? Or is that even part of what you think about?
Great question. The number one, and I want us to dive into this a little bit, is don't panic. Do you remember the time when we talked about the toilet paper debacle? Like, oh my God, when people were like literally scolding one another for buying toilet paper, and then all of a sudden we had this crazy shortage of toilet paper. Like, let's talk about the first one. Don't panic, right? It's not the end of the world today. So if we have to survive like another 6 months, year, 3 years, 5 years, number one, Leaha, let's talk about the panic.
Yes. So not panicking. What does that look like? What does it feel like? What does it sound like? And part of, I think, what drives panic is what the media is promoting as is a problem. I'll give a funny story. As my mom said yesterday, well, I sure hope our dryer doesn't break down, because if it does, we're not going to be able to get a dryer because they're on back order for, up to 18 months. And and then we laughed and said, we do remember actually how to hang clothing up and it will dry on its own. So but understand where the poison is coming from. What everyone's panic is coming from the idea of not having something, not the actually not having it, but the idea of not having it. And so that it's good to be prudent and good to make sure that if you have a fireplace, have some wood, so that you can burn some wood if you need to stay warm in the wintertime, depending on where in the world you're listening to our podcast at. Maybe you don't need that. Maybe that's not a concern of yours. Maybe you have food year round. Maybe you have excellent growing conditions like in Spain or Portugal. But if you're here in sunny old Alberta, Canada, or in many, many countries, it's getting cold this time of year. You need to, make sure that your furnace stays on, that you have electricity. Do you have, food that's canned? Do you have, because if electricity goes out or you can't pay your electricity bill, do you have food that you can eat that is canned? Because you can do that. And so that would be, once you have those resources under control and you feel like you can look in your pantry and go, I feel okay about what's here, I know I can keep myself warm, then you maybe will feel less vulnerable in this 3D world.
Correct. And you know what? It's the mindset. It's the lifestyle. People have got so accustomed to a certain lifestyle that sometimes we've maybe forgotten about the simpler times where, I can think back to my grandma and grandpa Bird out on the farm. They would feed the whole entire family and then the neighbors who we thought were family. And any given Sunday, there was 50 people over for a turkey dinner that grandma seemed to pull off every single time. And she even had the time to come run down the stairs, give us a big giant hug like she always did, and made time for all of us. So changing the mindset, changing the lifestyle, I think that's such a very important part. You have to take stock of what you got. And actually, we had discussed this, and again, different research and chats you and I have had, Leaha, that even at the beginning of this whole COVID global pandemic, let's circle back to the beginnings of 2020. And one big thing we did is we took stock of where we're at, right? It was actually a really neat lesson for all of us, whether we have or have not. It's like, what do you have? And we identified, what are your most valuable assets? And remember what your most valuable asset is?
Is yourself.
Bingo, right? So,
yourself. Exactly right.
It's not the toilet paper in the pantry. It's not whatever. It's not necessarily the roof over our head, but think about that for a second. You need to change the mindset and the lifestyle. Now, one trap I want to share that people will get into is they're so caught up in their lifestyle and they refuse, or maybe they're too stubborn to change their mindset, as it goes back to this thing of the panic sets in, and all of a sudden the get rich quick schemes come out. And oh my God, I've had a dime for everyone I've heard, or I've had a dime for everyone my clients have shared with me. And I've said, I wouldn't be your advisor if I didn't tell you to think about this for a second and like really listen to your inner voice. I want to share a true story, which was literally a horror story. So this one client came in, and this is back in Canada where we had the big cannabis stock, marijuana stock craze. And again, the people were jumping on the bandwagon, but some jumped on the bandwagon way too late. Once you hear about it from the guy or the news or whatever, sometimes it's way too late. And you're going to get caught in these big swings in the market. And again, what I want to share is a little chart. So this chart shows the Aurora Cannabis Inc. And I got to say, it started as like a little flat line, and then all of a sudden this big giant spike. And then all of a sudden at the giant spike, when it's like over $100 a share for one stock of this stuff, was just the craze. And people are like, oh, we should buy it. It's going to go through the moon. And oh, we're going to get so rich and blah, blah, blah. Well, you know what? Guess who got rich? Ones
Those
that bought
guys.
there, sold at the top, and then all the people that got hurt with the get rich quick scheme bought it up there. And the sad story I want to share, and this is a true story. There was a lady who was 85 years old, had $1 million. That was her $1 million nest egg that she was living on. And all of a sudden she got talking to her son-in-law, and her son-in-law was like, oh, I've got a guy, we could turn that $1 million into $5 million in like a very short time. And right at the peak, you see that little peak on the thing? And that peak is well over $100 a share, is when they moved the $1 million into this stock. Well, guess what it's worth today? It lost 95% is what it's worth today. And then once she was in it, she couldn't get out of it, never did recover. It's just kind of flatlined, bumped out. Those are the get rich quick schemes you got to watch out for, because once you finally hear one of these stock tips or whatever, you got to listen to your gut. Is if you don't go and seek the help, and that's my next point, is seeking help and finding the right people to work with. Man, oh man, what a tragedy people can get themselves into. So Leah, have you heard any stories like that, or just how does that make you feel? Like, doesn't it just rip your heart out? Like,
Yeah, I think that, it's very unfortunate. Very, I guess I feel like that people need to learn how to listen to their internal voice of wisdom, and also to have good people around them. And sometimes it's even the people who are well-intentioned. Like, I'm sure that lady's son-in-law wouldn't have ever wanted to see his mother-in-law go through that. So there's just lots of things, but that's part of the risk of how we live, right? We're here on this joyride we call life. And it's sort of, what we do, we dip in and we try things out. And sometimes it's painful lessons. And those are the lessons sometimes you remember more so than others. But yeah, I was raised by people who are pretty calm, so that the get rich quick scheme has been more about the building business, rather than investing in stock, so I think a lot of people think that it's easy to build a business also. And so if you're working for an employer and you've been used to doing that, and you've had income coming in, and then all of a sudden you're getting the squeeze for whatever reason that you're not going to have employment for the million reasons that are currently happening now, then how do you actually transition into something that's a good business decision for you to build a business? And that can sometimes be made to look like, oh, this is so easy. It's easy to build a business. Like, so it's not that easy. It's not, so unless maybe somebody's bequeathing you a business, which awesome. That's good. You're still going to have things to learn, but the basic, the taking a risk, the risk reward of dipping into something or getting rich quick usually is exactly that. It's just kind of and I don't even know if scheme is the right word, but it doesn't usually turn out that way. It's that old sounds easy when you say it fast.
Yeah.
Thing.
And what exactly are you buying, right? So in that example, buying marijuana stock, does that sit well with you? Mm-hmm. Or would that sit well with you?
Well, yes. Well, I was going to say, the answer to that. So it's like, this is brought to you by Pfizer. Probably not going to find me buying any of that stock either. So yeah. So because I do really believe that we can be well, and that people have to take their health and natural immunity into hand on their own, and that we can. And so the same goes for wealth and wealth management while we are going through perilous times. So how do we do that? Okay, first of all, we don't panic. So make sure that we're calm. We make sure that we surround ourselves with good people. So good people, meaning people who have your back. What does that look like, Greg?
You know, and that's a great thing. So we said, don't panic, take stock of what you have. The big lesson in that, as I bring up the next point, is, you know, seeking help and really bringing, you know, the close people together that mean the most to you. Because we've talked about this, that choices today will reverberate well into the future. And we're big on the 7 generations planning and what that means. We've got some great lessons on that. So you want to check that out, go back to that one. I think it was episode 2. And you know, I've got a lot of friends and family and clients that have listened to that episode. And man, that was a great perspective that you shared. So keep in mind that choices today will affect everything into the future. It will reverberate. So don't panic, seek help, take stock, seek the right help. Again, this goes back to the discernment, like I just said, that feeling in your gut. Make sure that if you're talking to someone, you're connecting on a level where you understand, and not only intellectually, but can you feel it? The emotional connection you have of, you know, who can you trust at this time to really help you and go forward? So again, Leah, that's a big thing for you, I know, is, you know, you work with people and surround yourself with people that are only going to elevate yourself. So did you want to comment on that? How do you start there and then build out?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think having the insight to course correct and to self-correct all the time is the ninja skill that other people can have. So when you are testing something out, or you're even in it, say you've been in something for 4 or 5 or 10 years or 15 years or whatever it is, and you can see that that thing is becoming rotten, you don't need to become rotten along with it. You can make a decision to actually course correct for yourself, because that's actually our responsibility. It's not other people's responsibility. So when you see something that isn't a fit, or you feel something isn't a fit, or you know something is out of integrity for you, then get yourself out of it and get yourself into something that is of better vibration for you. And is it easy? No, it's like but it's a lot easier than sleeping with the devil for $3,000 a month, as I like to say, because that's what you end up doing, is you end up making bad decisions because you think you've got responsibilities and et cetera, et cetera. But at the end of the day, having peace of mind, knowing that you've got things in order, knowing that you're a competent person, those are things that are important. So your competency in your own life is the reason why you don't need to bring in other people that maybe don't have that much integrity. Or if they turn south and turn sour, that you don't need to stay with that. You know, so we're seeing that in the culture right now. It's like that whole souring of the culture. And do you need to stay in that vibration, or do you actually have to make decisions to go, you know what, no, that's not for me. Part of the reason why we started this show in the first place also was to help people to transition from traditional banking models to how do we self-fund community initiatives that are more humanitarian and that are more organic and that are more honoring nature. And that was really part of the reason we started this show. And so when we see that that's, you know, now become very apparent what the banking system is doing, what the monetary system is doing, what countries and governments are doing to their people through the hyperinflation, because that just doesn't happen because somebody made an error. Whoops, I didn't know better. Like those are all things that people could see coming down the pipe for their populations. So also just having the wisdom to know your government does not have your best interests at heart. So it's up to you to have your best interest at heart. And maybe that was a long-winded answer, Greg, but it's I think how people need to consciously create their life, you know, to go, am I operating in integrity? Am I in an environment where people have integrity? If not, what do I need to do to actually get myself back on stable footing so that I'm in that environment of good vibes, good moral, good standards, that sort of thing. Yeah.
Or our friend Hugo would say, good wives.
Good vibes. Exactly.
Love that. Love that. She reached out to me the other day and invited me actually to her BNI meeting in India. So beautifully said, Leah. I absolutely love what you said there, because again, you know, who are your people? Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
Who is your direct bloodline, your descendants?
Yep.
My little birds are right here above me again, here at the birdhouse. But, you know, you really got to continue to build, I've said this, build that community through building good connections, right? Mm-hmm. If it's not enhancing you, why are you doing it? So as you do that, you can get into this flow that we've seen. And man, you know, since we started this show, Leah, you know, how many good people have come our way and connected. It's almost like the synchronicity starts to go and build and magnify. You know, please share some of the examples for you of things that have really come together here. And it's so funny that when you get in that flow, all of a sudden it starts to happen. What's one that comes to your mind?
Yeah, I think behind the scenes, we have a lot of people that come to mind that are people who really don't necessarily want to be in front of the camera or on the microphone, but who are actually community builders and who are working, you know, many hours a day doing that work. So people who are building humanitarian projects, and, you know, Miss India, 𝘼𝙗𝙤𝙪𝙩, she was a very good example of somebody who's working on doing that in her country, in India. And I think that the human journey right now around people going, whoops, I made a mistake, and how I can help humanity through knowing this mistake or knowing this life journey didn't work out so well, that those are the empowering stories. So when people realize that they can heal cancer through natural remedies, when people recognize they have the ability to manifest wellness by practicing healthy behaviors, those are the things that we hear back from people that go, well, you know what, I didn't really get that much out of this particular episode, but I did learn something about myself. And that self-reflection and consciousness raising is an important piece, I think, from all of the guests that we've had on the show, is their own raising in consciousness. And do we believe in the same things? Not 100%. No, it's not even about that. It's about a person's own journey, their own cognition about what's right for them. And then the course correction when they know they've made a mistake. Those are the real heroes, you know, and people who 100% go, I'm responsible for my own vibration. I'm responsible for my own health. I believe I should be healthy. I believe I should be wealthy. I believe that I should help other people, because we can't just live here solo. You know, that's our job. We're binary people. You know, it's man, woman, it's masculine, feminine. You know, so maybe that's the other thing that's really come through, you know, over the span of this recovery road, is the masculine, feminine appreciation that you need both of those aspects in order to manifest anything good in life. And that, you know, taking that forward, you can't have generations of people without the masculine, feminine energy interplaying all the time. And that, you know, so just that constant recreating of what it is that we're here to do, and noticing where there's things that are not happening that we need to pick up the intel on and share with people as much as is possible. So not staying stuck in old stories, but going, what is it that we're manifesting right now, that is actually helping to move humankind forward? Those are the key things. And they're not the same thing as 3 weeks ago. To your point of your shell sign, you know, that 3 weeks ago, people could still put gas in their gas tanks. You know, most people weren't thinking about, holy man, at the pump, when I put in my card, it's not going to work. You know, I'm not going to be able to get to work today. People aren't thinking that way. So here we are. This is the current reality. So people's abilities to start to forecast for themselves what their daily experience is going to be is the way that they can actually take back their peace of mind, not be in panic mode, not be in, I don't know what to do, you know, the sky is falling mode, or to drag other people into your crappy vibration, because that's also your responsibility. So that's That's important. Those are important things.
You know, Lee, you shared so much wisdom in this, everything you've just said right there. So think about that, the purpose and the mission. There's all this positive and negative out there in the world. What my lesson is to everybody is, you know, in your mind, you think about the different scenarios. There's a beautiful thing that us human beings, we can think out the different scenarios. What do I do if I make this choice? What do I do what will happen if I make that choice? That beautiful thought pattern, all the scenarios, embrace that. And there's one thing that we've talked about is perseverance. If you can persevere through this thing and let all this negative and the dark and the whatever, the negative vibrations push you, you know, it's only going to help us grow and evolve. And it truly is an evolution. We are at such an evolutionary point here in our humanity and our timeline put here today on this earth now, that it's really important to really take note of what you just said. And, you know, what is your purpose? What's driving you, right? What's your mission? What's your path that you're on? And I tell you, the choices today, why I keep saying that, are just going to continue to reverberate into the future. And look at the cycle that is repeated. We've seen countries go through hyperinflation, like you say. Look what happened in Germany in the early 30s and through the beginnings of World War II. We've seen what can happen. We've seen what will drive inflation. We know the causes of it. But where can you grow? Where can humanity grow and evolve from here? Now, bring it back right back down here to self, yourself. And who are you most affecting around you? You know, is it your children? Is it your family? Is it your friend network? Is it the people at work? What can you do to help kind of brighten and raise that vibration? So, you know, Lee, just you doing the show brings out so much inspiration, and we hear from so many different people. There's one guest in particular we've had that just, I always keep thinking of when you just mentioned the cancer and all that. Someone who's beat cancer twice, Teresa Llewellyn. Like, look at her perspective on life now. It's just living, like live, laugh, love, and do things that really inspire you and really connect with the people that are the closest around you. Like, she's out there camping and she's out there, you know, with her new hubby, Joey. Like, it's just so beautiful to see. So the lesson in that, get back to, you know, who is your people? Who is your community? And how do you want to build that? Who do you want to let into the community? Who do you want to keep out of that community? You know, you had said something how there's these communities being built. Let's dive a little bit into that if you would want to, Leah.
Yeah, sure. I think that's where the fun factor is. You know, we were talking about, why did our grandparents or forefathers leave the country they live in? And most of them left because of war. It wasn't that most people were not actually leaving you know, on a jet plane to have a good time because they were leaving a good situation. Most people were making other decisions about where to live because they were dissatisfied with the culture they were currently living in, the culture they were in. And so this moving away from things sometimes landed people in countries where they just had to make do and really become resourceful about pioneering, et cetera, et cetera. So we might be more conscious people, like we might know more things. We might have more technological equipment like computers, et cetera. But really the pioneering spirit or the homesteading spirit is the thing that puts food in your mouth, because you can think you can grow a plant, but if you can't actually grow a plant, then you're actually not going to starve. So the community stuff really is about bringing together, bridging people who have good technical skills, I think, with good people who actually have skills around growing food, husbandry, you know, taking care of the land, taking care of children, that regard life as a positive thing. And then in each one of those communities, will be particular cultures or cultural conversations that happen. You know, so what kind of culture do you want to live in? What kind of value system are you content with living in? And they all will look unique. You know, so there's builds already happening, definitely in Costa Rica, Panama. Been looking at other builds throughout the world. If people just check out what other community builders are doing, you can find places on the on websites very easily. And then, you know, that's an option about really thinking about, where would I fit in this time? What are the things, to your point, that I bring? Like, what's our most important resource is, what do you bring? Because if you're not able to produce anything or teach anything to anybody, then your use is actually pretty much nothing. So, you know, this is a good time for self-reflection and self-evaluation. for those of you who have decided to actually withdraw yourself from life and not learn anything and just be a sucker, I will call it, a parasite of things, then, you're probably going to have a harder time finding a home. But again, this comes to that, the crossroads of your life and going, is this still serving me? And do I want to do something different? Because that's the beauty of being a human, of being an anthropos, is we get to choose every moment with every breath how we're going to live that life, this life we've been given. So what is it you're going to do? Are you going to start taking up gardening? Because you can do that. You don't have to go, well, I've kind of sucked the life out of everybody around me for the last 10, 20, 30, 50 years. I really don't feel like I have anything to contribute. Or you can go, you know what? I feel like maybe I should take up gardening. I should try to learn how to grow something. I should try to nurture something. I should smile at my grandchildren. I've been kind of a curmudgeon for the last 10, 20 years, or I've never picked my head up out of my device for the last 8 years. So this nurturing, become back to your family, come back to that and become a grower and a teacher of the things that you know. And if you don't know anything, then learn something, and then teach something, learn it and teach it. Learning something has no value unless you're going to actually teach it.
Love that. And here's the challenge of the day, because I know you always like to say, pick up a pen and a paper, write this down or type it out, whatever. I'm going to say I'm old school. So take a piece of paper and a pen and create. What can you create today? And what would you like to learn to create? So is it going to be pick up a guitar and learn how to play the guitar? I know you can play the guitar beautifully.
Thanks. I play a little, sing a little.
Sing a little. We always joke about singing. Creating. Right. Are you good with animals? A love of mine. I grew up loving horses because my mom just is like the horse whisperer. So that in my heart, that resonates with me. How can I teach people to maybe connect and ride horses, and the ones that are afraid of it? How can we build that into a culture? You talked about gardening or farming. Like our families grew up as farmers. Yes. I love that you reference, what choices our families made, say 80 to 100 years ago, pre-World War II. Our family, my mom's side, were all that lived in Czechoslovakia, which they said, we're out of here. And right. What a good time to get out of here. I don't think I'd be sitting here today. Mm-hmm. And because of the choices my ancestors made back then, the 𝑸𝒂𝒃𝒍𝒆 family that got the heck out of there and went to Canada and said, let's farm and let's do what we do best. But they pioneered and they did that. They made those choices today. And here I sit, that many generations, 3-4 generations out now with my little birds. And it's a beautiful thing. What did they create? Who could they make their community? And it was such a beautiful thing that what a negative thing that was going on pushed them, that darkness pushed them out of the country. They literally got off that side of the globe and went to the other side and started something fresh. And that's very similar to what we're hearing is happening today. These community builds, there's true pioneering going on again right now. That whole live in the dream, what does that mean to you? Mm-hmm. That's actually a good question. Let's write that down. Live in the dream, ? What does that mean to you? ? Write it down. What resonates in your heart? Don't get stuck up in this pantomime that's going on around here. If it's like not enhancing you, why are you doing it?
Yeah, that's right. And if you actually write things down too, it helps to take you out of panic mode, because then you can see how you can activate your neurology and how you can activate things in your life to actually learn something, change something, do something. But if it's just sort of that smoke and mirror stuff that's going through your mind, it's really not brought into this 3D world. So you can't really execute much on it to change your reality. So going back to the first meme of the day, this hyperinflation, how do you change that? Well, maybe you need to stop driving so much for the time being. Carpool, like what are the other things that you can do to actually get to work? Talk to your employer. So there's many, many things, and go, I can't do that. I can't do that. This is a really great time to learn great communication skills. Under pressure is the best time to learn communication skills. So not running, not hiding, not just saying, holy man, things are really tough. And you don't have to amplify the tough with being a curmudgeon. That's the word I use, like crabby, awful person. You say, man, it's like, oh yeah, I don't have enough money to pay for my gas today. Help. So somebody can pick up on that vibe. We're seeing a lot of that too. I think, Greg, is interesting with people losing their jobs because they're not taking the vaccine. They're not taking the jabberwocky, that they're being forced out of employment. So in a lot of groups that I'm seeing are people saying, when the day comes that you actually need to make that decision and you don't want to do it, we're going to be here for you to help. So just reach out then. Who is your community? Who are they? Know who they are, ask for help, accept help, and then come with your full armament, what it is that you can bring to the relationship and to the conversation. That those are being human. Those are being like the real contributing human being. What can you bring? Bring it. Sometimes it isn't the resources. Sometimes it's your sense of humor. Sometimes it's your ability to care for other people. And I mean tangible resources. So there's this whole set of intangible resources that if you know how to utilize those, then it's awesome. Maybe you're a carpenter. Maybe you can do woodworking. Maybe you can just chop wood. Like all of those things are immediately helpful to other people if you extend yourself and offer to help other people. And then they go, well, you know what, I got a load of cash, let me give you that. So there can be fair exchange or helpful exchange between humans. But until we start to actually take the walls down, there's a lot of walls up now for even just regular conversation. People are not encouraged. In fact, opposite, it's like that person over there is going to make me sick. So it's a very sick mindset that is being perpetrated on humanity. And it's up to us to go, you know what? No, I wasn't sick of you 2 years ago before all this baloney started, when I hugged you at Christmas time or in the fall and you all had flus. I never even questioned it, so I'm not going to bring that fiction forward. I'm going to treat my fellow human being like a reasonable, decent person. And hopefully they will treat me the same way. And by that, then we build community without even relocating, right? So that whole thing too, breaking down the walls.
Yeah, don't retreat from the fear. What can you do today and tomorrow and the next day to enhance that community? And remember, community is such a broad term, right? Your household, your family, your friends, the place that you work. You can help raise the vibration wherever you're at. And that's the key, is if you're going to be a part of this community, what can you do to enhance it? So start writing it down. Literally start writing it down. The second you start writing it down, there's that whole word we always talk about, that you will manifest it. Well, you know what? If you write it down, more likely you're actually going to take action and work towards it. And I love that we've had this conversation. It was just the impromptu conversation. We had the time blocked off, and look what this has blossomed into today. I had so many memes of the day I could share. And even in the research of the song of the day, you're not going to believe this, because I didn't even share the song of the day with you. No. This song, it's a country song. I went back to country, a little throwback to our roots, Leah. There's so many hidden meanings in the lyrics of this song that actually really resonate and synchronize with a lot of what we've talked about today. So are you ready for my song choice of the day?
I'm ready.
All right. This
audience, are you ready?
Yeah, are you ready? So country song. It's by an artist, Jake Owen. He's maybe not the most well-known artist, but Jake Owen's got a song called The Journey of Your Life. Let me repeat that. The Journey of Your Life. And if you've never heard the song or heard about it, I encourage you, after you hear the lyrics, to actually jump onto whatever media to find it and listen to the tune. Okay, this is beautiful. You ready?
Yes.
All right. Jake Owen, The Journey of Your Life. Well, he was old school, in overalls, tough as nails, as I recall. He fought a war and came back home, honest as the day was long. And right before my grandpa died, he looked me straight in the eyes, said, here's some words to get you by, to help you on the journey of your life. You'll need a hero and a good dog, especially a good dog, a hammer and a handsaw, Band-Aid now and then. You'll need a home to come home to. Son, we all need a refuge on the straight and narrow path. You need to learn to bend. Get a good square and keep it level. Have grace to face the devil. You need an angel flying by your side on the journey of your life. Ride the wind till we meet again on the other side of life. You'll need some good luck in a Bible, especially a Bible, a lot of faith in God above, and a woman you can love. You'll need a good song that you can sing, and on a shoulder you can lean on, and you got to draw the line sometimes when push comes to shove. You'll need to lose some to be a winner. Have courage to surrender. You'll need to laugh a lot and keep it light on the journey of your life. And no matter what dreams you're chasing, never get above your raising. May the simple things be amazing on the journey of your life. He said, I'll be the angel flying by your side on the journey of your life.
Very cool. Very cool. So what did that song mean to you, Greg?
I tell you, there were so many synchronicity there. Where do I begin? You know what? The love that I have for my family today, and just the honor I have for my dad, my grandpa, what we talked about, that perseverance that really pushed them, like life-changing things, like a world war, for example, or even just, the crazy interest rates of the early 1980s. I look at what my mom and dad did to survive. What they did is they did everything, and it wasn't perfect. They did everything that we talked about today. They took stock. They worked together. They sought the help they needed. They surrounded themselves with good people. And look at where they are today. Look where we are today. Here we can be saying we're facing another big global crisis, but where are we going to be now, a day from now, a week from now, a month from now, a year, 10 years, 100 years from now? I tell you, what it means to me is, again, just take all the stuff that we've learned, what you feel, and really be a part and mean something to somebody in this life. You're the angel right now to so many people, Leah, and I think you know that.
Great. Oh, thank you, Greg. And be the angel to yourself. Be the angel and the guiding light to yourselves. That's the wellness from within. Greg, we're out of time for today. Thank you again for such a great episode. Everybody, come to the masteryourlife.ca website. We have tools, resources, and things to help you to actually mind the panic, because panic actually originates in the brain and the body. So you can come check out the nutraceuticals that will help you with your brain health. You can check out the Qigong that will help you with your breathing and will help you to relax and to take care of your physical body so you can do all of these things that are earthly. That's masteryourlife.ca. Thanks again, everybody, for joining us. Love yourselves, love each other, mind your minds. That's all for us. Bye for now.
Thank you. Love you all.
Thank you for being a part of our program today. Master Your Life is a presentation of Leaha Mattinson Enterprises, Inc. Join us next time on Master Your Life, helping you to discover the very best of you.